talk about recreational use, right? Coffee and other sources of caffeine are regularly accepted throughout our culture. And you could make an argument that nicotine is not that far from caffeine in terms of its physiological effects. Certainly, it's more addictive than caffeine, but in terms of the harm that's being caused, it's not by the nicotine itself, and certainly not by the caffeine. So, your point is, I think, a valid one that if you restrict this to nicotine and only nicotine, then this picture becomes a lot clearer. We don't need to have this dare I say puritanical stance that all nicotine in any way, shape, or form is categorically bad, completely bad. And I think to have that sort of all or none mentality without understanding the nuance is wrong.
In your experience, Dr. Carpenter, when speaking about smoking cessation out in the community, are e-cigarettes welcome in the discussion?
I got to tell you, they're not. And I've often been um, bemused by that. Not amused, bemused by that. It's strange to me that in this day and age, I guess we've done a poor job of educating people about what nicotine is. Now, I will say that most of my community outreach is in schools. And I'm doing school lectures to parents, to teachers, and sometimes to kids. And we can and we should, and we absolutely need to be cautious about what we're saying in that context. I don't want to be seen as a zealot who is unappreciative of the stance or the concerns that they have. Again, I am a parent. I have 3 teenagers at home. I don't want my kids using e-cigarettes, and we talk about these things. But I still think there's room for education. And in fact, there was another editorial written by my colleague, Dr. Ben Toll and Dr. Brian King about the necessity of educating people about nicotine. And that came out in the past 3 or 4 months in Addiction, I believe.
So you just mentioned Brian King, who's the director of the FDA Center for Tobacco Products. And that brings me to my next question. They're working on their 5-year strategic plan, and the American Lung Association submitted this to the FDA.